Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to That Silverline Show on Tuesday. I am your host, Tim TK, and I am joined, as always, by the Texas Swapper, Quentin Bedwell.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to That Show on Tuesday, and happy to be here, and hope everybody here is doing well.
Alrighty, and we are joined by prodigal son, Aaron Humphreys.
Yes, I keep popping back up, even though it's not my night to be on, bothering you all. I am just coloring comics, and I thought I'd come in and talk to these dudes, I guess. These guys hanging online, talking about comics and stuff.
Just a couple of dudes being guys.
Just being guys.
Yeah.
Being dudes.
And, of course, we are joined by our new son, Jose Fuentes.
I feel so privileged. New son.
You may speak, my child.
I know, right? I'll tell you, the intro song is so awesome. At least from our end, I feel like we should all be walking in with like sleeveless leather jackets and whatnot, water dripping from us. I don't even watch wrestling.
Yes.
Clearly, we need to come in like that.
Yeah, it's very like EC dub, old school professional wrestling. Yeah. And we are your Silverline Show on Tuesday crew, and tonight we are going to be talking about business, baby, in the comics industry. This week, this decided to start off with a bang with two big things happening back to back, and then we're going to just really just surface level on it because we are not league representatives or really particularly involved by either case. But we'll then move into talking about some epic storytelling, the concept thereof, originated by Homer and the Iliad, and more recently popularized by Dune, and of course our beloved grand scoping comic crossover events. Try to say comic, epic, and crossover at the same time.
Right?
Yeah. Crossover. And we're going to keep it open for plenty of derailing. Good evening, Mr. Tommy Flormonti.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Trouble in the house.
So we're, of course, going to start it off like we do every Tuesday and see what everyone has been doing media-wise. What have you been enjoying, reading, watching, playing, listening to, what have you. I'll start to my left with Jose Fuentes.
Reading. I've actually been reading Vampire the Masquerade Dark Ages core book.
Oh, yeah. Vampire Masquerade.
So I've been an avid fan of Vampire the Masquerade probably since like, I don't know, first edition all the way.
Wow.
Then I played live action role playing, and then I story told live action role playing, and just I like gothic horror. I don't like watching movies because splatter blood all over my face. But show me a good Dracula or a good Wolfman, you know what I mean? And I'm there for days.
For the first time my bookshelf failed me, I wasn't able to pull my vampire core book down. That's actually my pack. We've been playing I've been the storyteller for a Chronicle and Vampire the Masquerade all month.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Right on. Yeah, and then I started watching the second season of Lock and Key on Netflix. Like I watched the first. I've not read the books. I should, but I kind of wanted to finish watching it and then go back.
Yeah,
the books are for what
the other way around, but
yeah. You might be a little I read the books. The books are much more horrific than the show. I actually started watching the show and I didn't like the tone of it. I like the books much better. So yeah, I'd be curious to see what you think going the opposite way. Show, book. Is that one book, show? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely say something about it.
For sure. Okay. If that's what you got, then I'll go upward to Quentin Bedwell.
Yes. Well, I've been doing a lot of work, but I have been listening to because I've wanted to read and haven't been able to have the opportunity. Two different books. One of them is Dark Knight Last Night,
Okay.
which is turning out to be a really surprised me. I wasn't expecting much, but it's pretty good. And also Injustice one, not and it seems to be really good too. So I've been listening to it. I haven't really watched. You know what? I did watch some or not movies, but shows. Creep Show, the new Creep Show.
Oh,
Just
how
'cause
is that?
Man, it is classic.
Now that's on the Shudder series, right? Shudder channel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have to pay for Shudder, or can you just get it?
It's like you get like 7-day free trial, and then it's like $5.99 a month or something.
And
that's decent.
But you're able to get it through Prime.
Ooh.
Which is what I do, you know, on their channels that they have that you can subscribe to.
Yeah.
And I saw it and I was like, you know, I'm just going to try this. And I'm telling you, the stories were classic. I mean, they looked like they were pulled directly out of the 80s or 90s and good stuff. Good, solid horror. Some of it creature horror and some of it just, you know, spooky. It was really good. I recommend it.
Okay. Here.
I guess I'm last if I'm going. What have I been watching? We've been with a friend watching a Korean series called Sweet Home. I think it's called Home Sweet Home or Sweet Home or something like that.
Okay.
It's like a horror series. My friend loves Korean dramas, so we're always like, I'm trying to think of the last time I watched anything with English language. Master at reading subtitles. Really good so far. A monster series. Kind of like a zombie series, but with monsters. You have to check it out. We're not done with it yet, so I don't technically know all the answers to it, but pretty good creature effects, whatever, for a TV show. I did watch Batman: The Long Halloween Part 1 and 2.
Nice.
Did a decent job with that. Started rewatch because like DC has their animated universe that's supposed to be connected, and they have most of those shows on HBO Max. If you have HBO Max, you can actually watch all in order, that series. So I've been starting to watch those again, and just for fun. Still playing. I'm playing the new Psychonauts now, not the old one, the new one. Started playing Doom 3 in virtual reality. That was worth it.
Okay.
So I have a virtual reality helmet. So I'm like, I haven't used it in a long time. So I'm like, I'm gonna throw in Doom 3, and that makes any old game completely new within seconds.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's like people are like, well, yeah, the graphics aren't good. It's an old game. Like, who cares, man? It looks cool. You're there.
Right. I'm looking forward to throwing on my VR helmet and getting into Elite Dangerous at some point soon.
Oh,
yeah. Which VR helmet do you have? Do you have one of the Oculuses or?
I have a super sketchy cardboard thrown together one.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the PlayStation VR is the one. They also have some other. You can use this controller called. I don't know if you guys heard of the aim controller. It's like a gun, so you can like hold the gun, and then it does. So you can actually move this like controller in the game, so you can move your gun as you would in real life.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a really fun controller, and that actually, I found out that you can use that in Doom 3, and I'm like, so I have to charge it up again. It's been dead for a while, so I'm like, come back to life, so I can play with you.
Yep. I have to go to hell by way of Mars, but yeah. The only thing I've ever won from a contest has been a PlayStation VR helmet from a Taco Bell giveaway.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
I sold it to my roommate in college because I was moving back across the states and he's staying there, and he had the PlayStation. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Oh, but, you don't have a PlayStation?
No, I had the Xbox and he had the PlayStation, but I won it, so
yeah,
I just sold it before I left.
It's it's pretty relatively old as far as VR technology is, but it's still pretty fun. I
Yeah.
went through. They had a sale on a bunch of horror games on PlayStation Store, and I bought a whole bunch of ones that I thought look cool. So the horror games and horror in VR is a whole nother beast. Uh, that's I'd like horror movies and stuff don't bother me, but you throw me in VR with that, oh, that's completely different.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That was right before I won it right before that VR Silent Hill came out.
Oh
Or Resident Evil. Yeah. That was different.
Resident Evil 7. I think it's like
yeah. That was nutty.
Yeah, I played that in VR. That's and that's really it's almost the reason I haven't bought the newest Resident Evil, because it's not in VR, and so there's a part of me that's maybe hoping with they're doing a virtual reality helmet too for the PlayStation 5. I'm like, maybe they'll put the 8 in VR in that.
Maybe.
It's a long shot, but it was really a bummer because I was like, oh, the first one was so cool in VR, and now it's not even going to be remotely the same.
Right.
Not having that game in VR, so I was kind of bummed.
So those of you watching, you might have noticed that Jose Fuentes had to drop for a second there. He got a call, but he'll let me know when they pull him back in. And I will share what I've been doing, which is I just over the weekend decided to read Superman Red Son. So yeah, that was fun.
They had the animated movie of that out.
Yes, yeah.
I'd be curious to know. I read that book a long time ago, so
yeah, it's great. Just get what have I done? Honestly, it's been kind of a hectic weekend, but mostly playing a lot of Age of Empires 4. Since that came out, as well as some arcade games, because the big thing for Halloween was a costume party at Coin Jam, which is our local barcade. So
nice.
Yeah, we went there, played arcade games all Saturday. Ran into the people from the Girls Play YouTube channel. So, hello, Girls Play. They're much larger. Cool. They're much larger than us. Please notice us. Yes.
Come enjoy our live stream.
Exactly. And that's been my Dune kick has been so like intense right now. I've started rereading Dune.
Oh yeah.
I saw the movie like 3 times, and I've started rereading it.
Do you have HBO Max?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So yeah.
Yes, I saw it in the Regal with the electric fold out seats and everything, and then.
Tim,
I'm glad for you, Tim.
Yes.
Because it's not very often that one of your favorite things comes around.
Oh yeah, especially
that you can enjoy like that.
Yeah, as I mean, like Venom was fun, and he is one of my favorite characters. But like the movies aren't great; they're fun.
Yeah.
But Dune, it actually just felt like, oh, this is actually a very well made movie. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's usually most of the stuff I like that no one else likes, so I'm just used to that.
That's fair.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. It's almost kind of weird, and I actually kind of like a big fan of the Zack Snyder Justice League. Mm-hmm. We don't like that. I'm like, I know, and so I'm used to that. So when I see a movie that any of my movies they get a sequel, anymore I'm just happy that I actually get any of the movies I like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is actually interesting because so from the changing consensus, it seems to be that more people are acknowledging that Zack Snyder's Justice League they like, but it's Joss Whedon's Justice League that they do not like.
Yeah.
The theatrical release. But what I thought is really interesting is that when they were planning on doing more of the DC extended universe as a cinematic thing, they had already greenlit New Gods.
Yeah, I read that. What was that article about? I saw the headline.
Yeah, so they greenlit New Gods, but then but because that would deal with some of the inhabitants of Apocalypse, they decided to then can it, wait to see how Zack Snyder's Justice League played out, and then they're going to revive it from there. So that movie had been in pre-production for 2 years at that point, and they just it's all right. It's like, all right, everyone out.
That's too bad.
No.
Yeah, I know, and I know there's no people like they are like trying to do the hashtag restore the Snyderverse, and he's not coming back. Snyder's doing a bunch of stuff for and I actually just like Zack Snyder's movies. It was his last zombie movie, that
Zombie of the Dead.
Yeah, it was okay. There was some stuff I don't know, that was a kind of a miss for me. And I'm usually a big fan of his stuff, but and I guess he's making more of those, and he's making a Samurai 7 sci-fi movie. That sounds kind of cool. Except that Star Wars beat him to that like years ago.
Yes.
So I'm curious about that. I just like his directing style and the way he does stuff. So, but yeah, and the guy who did Dune, like I really liked the Blade Runner 2049. I love that guy's directing and art style. Yeah. I tried with Dune. I really tried. I went there. I went there twice.
Yeah, well, it's not everyone's.
Yeah,
but it is one of those things where it's like Lord of the Rings. You like it or you don't, but if you like it, you really like it.
You really like it.
Yeah. Yep.
What I missed?
Talking about still just what we've ingested for the week media-wise.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So we're going to hop into just kind of there'll probably be some surface level scratching of this week in comics business, because there's been two pretty big moves, or at least big for the week. We'll see how they play out in the long run, because they're still developing. Like literally, the first steps have been taken like on Monday. The first one that we'll step on is, of course, what's trending all over the internet now is the first union or concept of a union in comics book publishing at all, and I think it's also like the first union in publishing since the Science Fiction Academy did their thing. Science fiction writers did their thing.
Oh, yeah.
Not so like, yeah, the Writers Guild, and then the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association started underneath that. And the other one is Penguin Random House attempting to buy Simon and Schuster, and that is now currently in the docket to be heard as an antitrust litigation from the United States government.
And just to make clear, the reason why that's important is because Simon & Schuster is the distributor of Boom and what other comic titles?
It was like Dark Horse, Boom, and Oni.
Dark Horse, Boom, Oni, and Rebel, or Rebellion. And then Penguin Random House is now the trade and collected distributor of Marvel and DC.
Is it the DC go with Random House too?
Yep. Okay. DC, so it's DC, Dark Horse, IDW, and Marvel are all with Penguin, and then Simon Schuster is Boom Studios, Oni, Rebellion, and a couple other smaller indies. So it's essentially we almost had the Diamond 2.0.
I would also like to say too that DC or Warner Brothers or AT&T Warner Brothers, AT&T is about to get rid of Warner Brothers, or that is the talk around the water cooler that they're fixing to sell them to Discovery. Is it?
I think it's Discovery. Yeah. And that's strangely enough why the reason I know this is because and I don't think this will happen, but we'll see. Saying that I'm a Snyder fan, a lot of people were saying, well, the Zack Snyder stuff may come back because Discovery, somebody in charge of Discovery Channel really likes his stuff. And so people are like, are they going to bring it back? I'm like, I don't know.
Yes.
I wouldn't really think so. But
I'm actually scared because what they say is a lot of times whenever something like that changes hands, whatever projects they have in the works, a lot of times they will just totally can them and start over.
I think it'd be interesting, and this will also tie into part of the union stuff, but one of the things that the Comic Book Workers United they CBWU. They need. First of all, if you're going to unionize, you need better branding. All right, that's my take on it.
That
3 letters, make it catchy. I'm a card carrier of the Writers Association, that's WA, and I'm a card carrier of the American Bankers Association, ABA. It's, simple, catchy. All right, but I'm just going to call it the CBWU. So CBWU, one of the things is they want to have companies reinvest in marketing comics because it's kind of fallen by the wayside. Like, it seems like a lot of publishers are like, we have our niche and they're going to be our buyers, and then when they die, we'll figure out what happens. But Discovery has actually been pretty good about new media marketing. They're one of the first ones to adopt an old digital format, and for micro content, they ended up purchasing 2 pretty successful web series that ran for a while before they ended up getting switched over to Defy. Before Defy went down, and that was the Philly D Show and SourceFed. And those ran for several years, and they've of course have been like one of the first companies to start and popularize a TikTok account as a form of marketing, and so far that seems to be doing pretty well.
Well, maybe we could see some. I hope so.
Yeah, the idea is that it'd be interesting to see if they could bring some life into making characters, not just like everyone knows Batman and Superman, but they've had how many movies? Like if they could give like some treatment to marketing some other titles under their banner, if that were to happen.
It's strange enough. I posted, I don't know if the marketing, I posted a link to a video where a gentleman was walking around Target and Barnes and Noble looking at just the comic sections. And the one thing he noticed and was talking about, which I thought was a really kind of weird oversight on Target's part, is he said he was talking to the people who were restocking the manga section, and they were he came up and he took photographs of this, and it's this capstone at Target up here, if you guys don't know, it's like a base at Fred Meyer's, or it's a big chain conglomerate where they have you could buy anything at Target, like a Walmart. Yes.
I think the only places that may not be valid states, because I think it is nationwide.
Yeah. And so
they have better figures.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's looking at this end cap, and this lady says there's only a very few, maybe 10 books left. And she's like, this thing was full this morning. And he said, I was there at 10 a.m. and they had to refill it because it was just people just buying his stuff so fast. But he said what was interesting is he went to the place where they would sell the Marvel movies and Marvel toys, and they were selling. People buying the Marvel movies. I mean, they were all kind of sold out there. So, but the thing he did notice is there were no Marvel or DC comics, no Western comics next to the movies or toys that the kids could buy that would introduce them to the comics. And he said they thought that was really weird. He's like, it's not the fact that they're not selling; they're not even here. There's not even an option for people to go oh, look, the new Avengers movie. Hey, there's an Avengers comic. Oh, that's cool. And he's like, how much of a how much of a snafu can this be to possibly be this dunce to not put the comics next to the things that are promoting these properties that are big popular. But he says he puts the manga in there with no movies based on the manga, no anime around because they don't carry on them, and the manga's selling like that. So he's like, they're telling me that comics don't sell. It's ludicrous. They're just, you're not putting them. And he, it's funny. He asked this. He was photographing the manga section, and this woman came up with her daughter. And apparently he said she had a Wonder Woman logo on her backpack. And he said she was all digging into the manga. And he's like, well, why does she buy Wonder Woman? Or why didn't she buy Wonder Woman? And when he asked the mom this, why didn't you guys do that? She just said, this is easier. In other words, stating that we know how to buy manga because you start with volume 1.
Yeah.
When you go into DC and Wonder Woman, there's you don't know where to start. You don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And he's like, that was the only answer she gave. And he's like, that's pretty insightful.
That's honestly what I think. Why I like I said that when I said this before, but with the '98 reboot, Marvel has beat DC and their continued reboots with their publishing schedule, where they decided, okay, we're not going to do issues 1 through 500.
Right.
A writer's term on a book is going to be 1 through whatever, so it's going to be 1 through 12 or 1 through 24, depending on your contract length. And then they'll do essentially a soft reset where the story will still continue, will still be tied together. So if you're a longtime fan, it works. But you're going to have a bigger front page on that new writer's number 1, being like, this is what happened last time. This is the story that you're setting into. And that is something to hear a lot. And I mean, CM Punk, who wrote Drax for a while, he said this way that getting people. Also, the professional wrestler who is currently destroying AEW, and I love it. But he said, if you're trying to get someone into comics, you just you pick whatever's in the shop up that week, because otherwise you're going to get lost. Either you go and you find a trade, or you get whatever's in the shop that week, and then you come back next week, find something new, and you just pick up what you can on the rack, just start reading it, because otherwise you're going to get lost, and you're going to you're going to get you lost trying to find what you're looking for. Just find what sounds interesting and start there.
Yeah, exactly. It was I remember I had a friend who wanted to read the Batman comics, and it's like, well, I'm going to start at Batman number 1, and I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, the very first appearance of Batman. I'm like, don't do that.
Detective Comics number 1.
Yeah, you don't need to do that. And she's like, why? And I'm like, just look, as long as you know he fights crime and his parents died, you can read any story and it'll totally make sense. It'll just, you don't really need to focus on that. But I can tell to a lot, I mean, I think this is kind of a hindrance to a lot of people who buy comics, is just they don't know where to start in American comics. And I think also our adherence to continue. I mean, the one thing I've noticed with manga is they have these huge series, but they do not cross over. It's not a shared universe. I think, strangely enough, that can actually be kind of powerful. Shared universes are fun, but it can also be kind of powerful just to read. When I read the X-Men, which is my big one, it was just Claremont and his X-Men. He really didn't cross over to the other universe that much.
Yeah.
So the fact that, you want to read One Piece, you just buy One Piece. You don't have to buy anything else. And I think there's something to that. It's easy marketing.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting with that too is, with something like Gundam, which we'll get into this later, talking about epic storytelling, but that is an epic that is a long tale about heroes, with immortal and heroism. Spanning multiple settings. But that's been going on since the 60s.
I think so.
The comic, at least, the anime since the 80s, or later, the 70s, I think. But they have, like you said, they have branched stories. I have Universal Century, which is their main storyline. That's Mobile Suit Gundam. You have the Seed storyline, which is 2 runs, which you can pick up in 2 volumes, or watch 2 DVD sets, which is what I did. And then, Gundam 00, which again is 2 DVD sets at this point. Iron Blood Orphans is 1 DVD set or 1 volume. But the Universal Century, they still have continuations on that, but the characters and the story, it's all new going forward. You like the one person who gets called back is Char Aznavour, but it's like, okay, it's his nephew. Okay, now that's his son at this point, but it's new characters. Which and I mean, it is also kind of thing where that was my burnout with X-Men, and not too much with the Hickman. No, Hickman is kind of the creative head of X-Men right now, because it all is very contained. But before that, it was literally like you had to read 3 storylines at once in order to get what each one is doing individually.
X-Men.
He's doing Inferno, which is X-Men but isn't X-Men. It's going to be the big event that's going to get collected into the hardback, which I will buy. But before that, it was literally you had to read X-Men, X-Force, and like Renegades or whatever it was, and in order to get anything that was happening. And then even like the Age of Apocalypse and the Age of X-Men were even worse. But before that, you had Brubaker, and that's when I really got in love with comics, and it was always just like, all right, you have one main storyline. That's it. That's it. We have branch offs which are fun, but you have the Uncanny X-Men, and that is a story for 5 years.
Yeah, I think that's something that I do think, I have, I think I even posted or watched videos on the, argument between long, like ongoing series of comics or long form storytelling versus short. And I do think the manga has kind of cornered the market in 26 volumes, but it ends. I mean, you're investing in something that's going to end. And I think that's something, it's like, to me as a collector, it's important. I was collecting Invincible, and he would basically kept saying that thing's going to go on forever. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to keep collecting this. And then he eventually said well, you know what? I changed my mind. We're going to end it with this volume. I'm like, well, good. Then I'll just collect it and I'll be done, because it's I can gauge my investment. And I think that's something sometimes with comics, not all the time. I think ongoing can actually be good because people like coming in and getting their fix. Yes. So I think it's definitely an either or scenario. But I do think certain comic books, like me, I like to read all sorts of stuff. So I'm more apt to invest and buy your stuff if there's an ending in mind. Even if it's long, like 12 or 30 issues, if I like it, I'll still buy it because I know it's going to end. But if it's going to go on forever, sometimes I'm hesitant to buy it because I don't know if I wanted to start investing in something where, to me, I'm not going to get that payoff to know eventually what happens to everyone, because it's going to continue forever.
Yeah, Infrafan says, I can understand why all those asterisk notes telling you to read such and such can scare new readers. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm that way with shows. I don't like to come in on a series like midway through. Eventually I can pick up on some stuff, but I really like to go back to the beginning and and come up, and so yeah, definitely.
At some point I want to do just something super nutty, and in an asterisk or in a box, just reference something, because Silverline, there is a Silververse, wink wink nudge nudge, but everything is contained. If you read Wolf Hunters issue 1 through 3, that's all you need. You don't need to read K-List to understand what military stuff looks like here. If you're reading Demon's Tales, it helps if you read Cat and Mouse, but you don't need to. What I want to do at some point in Wolf Hunter, or in maybe a Redacted or something else, is put in a box and just reference catch this reference in Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment or something like that. Just reference one of those old 800-page books.
Read this book and you understand this reference. What?
Yeah. Man, this is a deep universe.
Well, I can see also how there would be the perceived notion, that Batman's been around since the 30s.
Oh yeah.
That's a little intimidating on its own. You'll go into it. You could actually go into it if you didn't know, thinking that I'll have to know stuff from way back, no telling how far. But then you find out, they've reset it several times. But then you're still kind of, even though they've reset it so many times, that's a whole thing all in itself. Which version of Batman am I seeing here?
Right. Well, that's the thing with DC had Crisis and 52. Those were their. If you wanted an issue 1, it's going to be from either Detective Comics, Crisis, or 52. But
even in the 52, they referred to stuff that happened in the
exactly. It didn't feel like a reset.
Yeah,
successful seems.
Infrafan makes a good point.
Yeah.
I've heard that too. I've heard people talk about, there was some girl talking about one of the Marvel movies. And she wanted her dad to watch him, and she's like, "Well, in order to understand this one, you have to watch these other 15 movies." He's like, "I don't want to watch that." So it was that immediate barrier, which is, strangely enough, I kind of wondered if that was going to come.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure, but again when they reset the universe, it's reset the continuity so people can jump in. It's then when you're 15 issues down the line, you just created the same problem you had before.
But having the it almost seems like a 2-year reset almost feels kind of somewhat necessary, just because
Yeah.
No, we have terms. We have terms in offices. We should have terms in comics. We're like,
Yeah.
we're like this. I mean, obviously you can tie things together, but you make it callbacks. I mean, that's with Star Wars. It's been going on since the '60s, but everything is contained enough, and it's all character centric enough that, like, you have how many generations now that had a definitive buy-in moment, like.
Right.
If you're, Gen X older, you had, episode 4, or if you're raised by older parents like me, that was also your buy-in because you weren't allowed to see new movies until you watched all the classics.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Good plan. Good
Yep.
plan. Thanks for the idea, Tim.
Yes, millennials and younger had episode 1, and then like Gen X, Gen Y had episode 7. I am sorry, but. Like there are moments of definitive buy-in where like I don't need to understand anything else. They're going to tell me what the Force is, and they're going to tell me who this character is and why I care.
Right. And not only that, but Star Wars, the power of Star Wars, it's a universe. They can tell, like they're doing the Book of Boba Fett. You don't need to know who Luke Skywalker is or anything are. You don't. You just need to know he's some dude in a suit. And
for that's why I love graphic novels, self-contained stories. And like except for like the things that I've been deeply passionate for a while, or like brand new series, I don't collect floppies. I only get trades or graphic novels.
I think most people do.
That's me too.
Like I'll buy floppies from my friends. Obviously, we're all friends here, but also like my friends over at Mad Cave. I have a few people now who have worked at Image, or I know people work at DC. I don't know if I know anyone who works. I want to know one person works at Marvel now, but I think they're just a letterer.
Although I did buy a few of the Doomsday Clocks, the first few copies, but I didn't get to return to it. But I looked through those because I just love, what's that guy's name? Gary. Who's the artist? He's awesome. He's really good. Anyway, I got it for the artist. I can't remember his name. It's Gary something. Gary Frank.
No, I'm just like, I really love your art, whoever you are. And that's me too. I know, it's like I do that too. Like, this guy's art's awesome. I don't know who he is or remember.
Yeah, I think it's Gary Frank. He's really good.
That sounds familiar.
Jeff Johns and Gary Frank.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I did buy those floppies. That's the last floppies I think I bought.
Yeah,
that's good for the kids. Other than the independent stuff, that is.
Yeah. I usually, like my Goblins, I will sell floppies, but once I'm done with the book, because a definite ending, I mean, all 12 issues, I am going to make a one-shot. It's going to be like $60 bucks, because it's 300 pages, and it's color, so that makes it even more expensive. But I actually have people that have told me, like, people online, like, well, when you put on the graphic novels, let me know. Like, they don't even want to buy the floppies. And I just made the floppies to start advertising the book ahead of time. You know, to get people interested and thinking, well, if they buy increments of it or something. And of course, the incentive is if you want to buy, because I'm not printing any more of the floppies after I sell them, is that the covers on the floppies are only printed on the floppies. Like, I'm not reprinting the covers in the book. And there's a reason why I'm not. A kind of a format.
Yeah.
And it's not just to be mean. There's a reason why I'm not doing that. So I want the book to feel like, the book is, when it's done, it's supposed to feel like an old tomb, like you would find in an ancient library. So it's not like, well, let's reprint a bunch of material and covers. It's like, no, I want to reprint only the stuff that you would find in like an old tomb or something. If that makes sense. So that was the idea. Yeah. So
this is not Spock, by the way.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
That
would be a copyright infringement.
No, he's mean mugging a little too much. It might be a negative dimension Spock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
Anyway.
This more of the? Is this the Trump's book still?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool.
And this is the actual series, not the Christmas special. You're done with the Christmas stuff, right?
Done with that. Yeah.
We're done with Christmas.
We're done with
We're
that.
done with Christmas.
We're canceling that before it even happens.
Yes.
It's just done.
Yep. No, we're in Halloween month 2, or month 3 at this point. If you follow my Instagram, it's Spork.
That's Spork, yeah.
Yeah. If you follow my Instagram, I share a lot of just random memes. and I died for like a solid 5 minutes. I'm saying this one, but I shared it. It's the War on Christmas cannot be canceled until Christmas ends its illegal occupation of November. We call upon the Klaus regime to respect the neutral borders set aside during the Black Friday Treaty.
That's true. Oh man. Yeah, I know. Thanksgiving, well, of course, everyone. What do they call it? I'm not even going to get into that. No, I'm not going down that night here.
Anyway, yeah. Speaking of derailing, yeah.
Well, I guess I was kind of talking about the books and marketing. That's what you're talking about marketing. I was talking about the fact they didn't sell Western comics in Target. Just that's sort of market faux-pas. I mean, how could you not just throw a comic next to the comic book movies? I mean, like, how hard would that be? And it would cost Target nothing.
Yeah. I think that was also probably Brook fan, or not Brook fan. Brook fan's a person from my personal Twitch. I don't know why I mistook info fan, Brook fan. They have the same last syllable, I guess. But the Infra pointed out that it sounds like a monopoly with Penguin trying to buy out Simon Schuster, and that's why that's being litigated. Is it could form a trust because you'd have one company that essentially handles the majority of traditional publication as well distribution now that a lot of publishers have been able to slip away from Diamond necessarily. But then also you're running the issue where we saw what Random House is already doing to Marvel and DC, where like their traditional stores, they're just telling them like, yeah, they just set them up kind of to the side of the rest of the books, but then like we want to have our main things like front and center, our main like novels, and they're not packaging them and giving them like MSRP style you can include instructions in your MSRP packet if you work in business. So side note, if you want to work in invoicing, you can include instructions in that packet. If you want to work in invoicing, I'm sorry, but
who does?
It's a great job. But then also we have all these other publishers who have the same issue where their only shelf space is behind like Penguin's pet projects.
Yeah.
And so
it's monopolies are never good. Anybody tries to argue that monopolies are good and because I just read the article and they were talking about it's going to cut pays down on artists and stuff. It's like, yeah, monopolies, that's not going to happen. I'm like, no, that will happen.
Yeah, and some people defend it with all kinds of different stuff. But let me tell you, with monopolies, this is the problem you run into is hospitals do this a lot too. They buy up an entire town or city.
Yep.
And if you get fired from one of those or leave, then you can't work in that town because it's all owned by that one hospital. And that's a huge deal. Mm-hmm. We moved from one place that had done that. My wife's a nurse, and we moved to a place that within about 2 years, the big hospital here bought up every clinic, everything. That's why monopolies are not good. And another thing that's not good about it is because there's no competition, so they can pretty much treat anybody how they want to. Because people can't get their stuff from anywhere else. This was the problem with Diamond having the monopoly on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had a complaint, oh well,
Yeah. And you imagine the packages that Simon and Schuster offered, Oni and Rebellion, like smaller publishers that definitely do not have the same cash flow as Marvel or DC to like buy these bigger packages for distribution. Their incentive packages are now out the window, so you could essentially effectively price out publishers from their chain of distribution.
Yeah, and what is a company's incentive that owns everything? What is their incentive to make sales or give deals or because there's no competition.
Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
This is like for the big. They were worried about that as far as booksellers with Amazon.
Yeah.
You know, and they're still kind of worried about that because, like, once Amazon gets it, then what they're going to do is just sell the books at undercut costs, and eventually that's going to lower the price for artists and writers to get paid because if they're undercutting it. Then they, even if they sell a lot, they're not going to get as much. So it's just, I don't know. It's competition, I think, is good, and when you take that away, I think it can cause real trouble.
Yeah.
There's that, and are we ready to talk about this union thing?
Yeah, we can touch on that for a couple minutes here before we hit our top of the hour ad break, and then we'll head into talking about epics and storytelling.
Well, I read that their kind of statement of faith,
Mhm.
their demands, I should say, and it sounds all good. Although they do credit their formation to the pioneers that started Image, but
Yeah.
I would like to say about that's a little misleading because Todd McFarlane did try to at first form a union. He had talked to other artists, and
Yeah.
they weren't interested in it. And then the next thing to do was to form Image to get out from under all of that stuff.
Yes.
Which I think is ironic.
To do your own thing.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting is that Malibu Comics, which if you're familiar with Silverline lore, some of the Silverline is tied pretty deeply to Malibu as far as like some of our head cheeses. To Image to break away from the traditional imprint model.
Did Tim lock up?
Nope. No. Oh, so okay. So yeah, some of the people from Malibu, which a lot of our big cheeses got their start in Malibu, were also some of the people who headed over to Image in order to break away from being just another imprint.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it was all about. That's what it was all about. So like them saying, we kind of take our inspiration from those. I don't believe that. I believe that's just them trying to say something that sounds good, but it's not really based in fact. But I looked at the list as well on their website, what we hope to achieve, the overview, and they have pretty much 9 demands here. Some of them I can't really believe they don't already do. And I can understand their frustration if those things are not being done, such as meeting together. Stuff.
So from the people that I've talked with, since I'm Aaron and I are both on either sides of the Image headquarters, essentially.
Yeah.
But I go to some of the same hangs as some of the office workers there, and apparently, the main thing that got them griping was the fact that your contract of employment does not necessarily work to equivalent what you are actually compensated as or your job duties. So you could end up signing for one thing. So Quentin, you could sign up as working in graphics and marketing. And then they're like, okay, you're actually going to be working on our presses and you're going to be making 50% less than what was on your contract. So you get a post-employment change of title and compensation. And they don't, this is not transparent, and also it's not necessarily like they're trying to crap on their employees. It's literally, so the Image is bigger than its britches at the moment. And so they're just trying to fill as many gaps as possible with as many band-aids without addressing essentially the position they're putting their employees in.
Well, let me tell you, when we first got back, because the first thing that happened during the pandemic at my company is they had to immediately offload 50%.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that they had to do after that, if you made it through that, about 2 weeks later, we were all furloughed.
Yeah.
because 80% or more of our stuff is school based, and the schools were out.
And
Mhm.
schools closed, so yeah.
So we all got furloughed, and all good and fine. Months later, we all come back. We all had to step up, and we had to accept less pay. We had to accept that we would have to be doing the work of multiple people, and that was just the way it was. And another one of their concerns in here is, having so much work to do, that just comes and goes.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it just seems pie in the sky to me. Some of the stuff they're asking for is just to be changed, or their demands is, it seems to me, is just the nature of the beast, stuff that one cannot change and run a company.
Well, the issue is it's also turning into kind of a legal issue, because you are running into that essentially breach of contract with their employees, but also something like because this is all their 9-to-5 employees. So when they mentioned the crunch time, that isn't necessarily even just the publication part. That's their financial office. Apparently, their books have been a mess for a couple of years now, and this is just kind of exasperated it. So they're wanting to, and it ties it also into the lack of procedures laid out for duties. Apparently, you'll just walk into the office some days, and they'll throw something on your packet. It may not even be in your department.
Yeah,
and you're like, I do not have the qualifications to do this accounting.
Well, I absolutely believe that there is some real grievances that they have just by reading some of the stuff that's in here. Just imagining that some of these things aren't already implemented as a company is kind of weird. Yeah, and I know that comics do not work like every other kind of business, but they kind of do in some respects. And I understand a lot of these grievances, but then some of them I'm like, yeah, I can see that. But then all of a sudden it's like, boom. Now, wait a minute. This is, being a little bit too, I've heard people make the case, are different cases about this, for and against. But I think probably the thing that really gets me is the very last, the very last thing. And this, to me, makes everything else seem like it's just a ploy. And I understand there's real people with real grievances, but when it gets to number 9 here, and you've got a renewed commitment to company values through the addition of collective voting options to immediately cancel publications of any title whose creator or creators have been found to have engaged in abuse, understandable. Sexual assault, understandable. Racism, understandable. Xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, anti-Semitism. I mean, the list just keeps going and going and going. And it says, until such time as said creators have engaged in meaningful reparations toward affected persons. This, to me, it just seems like a slippery slope. It's something that can be woefully misused. I mean, because there's no parameters here.
Yeah.
What exactly did they say? And are they actually guilty of what they, what was said? Because a lot of times stuff gets said about people they didn't even say, or weren't even guilty of. And some of it's, people said years ago. And
it is kind of a weird thing. I definitely think that unless it is requires a unanimous vote, it could be an issue, or something like a supermajority. But the person, it is kind of weird that because it's targeted at there's one specific person that they don't name, but it's talked about, and essentially this person had actively pursued and then groped someone at the office, and their work got put on hiatus for a few months and then got renewed immediately after, while everyone is still trying to deal with the fact that there's no.
I understand that.
Yeah, and so I definitely think
I just think it could be misused.
It's too vague at the moment. I feel like.
I think they should really, really go back and reword this because the wording is not specific enough as to what they're getting at. And the problem I have with the first line of that last demand: renewed commitment to company values through the addition of a collective voting option to immediately cancel publications. This to me looks like they're wanting to take control of the company's yay or nay. I mean, so what's the company going to do? I mean, that's what the company is there for.
Away from the people who are running
that they work for, that they are working for. And that seems to me a little weird, So pretty much what you're saying is the buck doesn't stop with the management. We are the ones who really get the final say as the workers. It's
also a great way to get rid of people that you don't like. Say you don't like somebody, you could trump them up with doing something or this, and we all collect it. So I mean, that is just a slippery slope because for one, the thing they really need to write in there is with sufficient evidence.
Yeah, I think it needs sufficient evidence. They need to be able to essentially. You need to have essentially a full-on trial for this person, or both sides need to be presented, and then it needs to be like a jury where you have either something like a unanimous decision, including management.
Well, the things that we
not just one person. Yeah,
the things that we have seen how these things go, though, that's not going to happen. Yeah. I believe that hearts may be in the right place and with a lot of people, but some people are going to use this as a weapon. So that's what and look, I have, they can do what they want to. When I first read the story, I was like, well, there goes another one, because this looks like just having this language in there just seems woke to me. And it looks like a way to cancel people. And I can't hardly really be with them on the other good points above there because of that. And that's a little scary.
I think it's also interesting. Well, what it makes it really interesting is the fact that this is literally just 2 days in, so they haven't even sat down to do their first set of bargaining with senior management.
And that's why I think this is unfortunate that this has went to Twitter and has got this following without them having first
figured out what exactly they're actually going to be able to get implemented.
Well, the other thing, too, is this is a union against a specific company, which I find very odd. Most unions are we're unionizing in the steel mill industry, or we're unionizing in the car manufacturing industry, presenting multiple workers in multiple companies. Yeah. This is a complaint. They made a list of complaints are unionizing against a specific team of people in a specific company. This is not a union for Marvel, DC. I think people hope it would be. But it's not like all workers of the comic community come unite in this union. It doesn't seem that way. It's like if you work for Image, you can come join us. If you don't, then it's like, well, that's not really a union. That's you forming a complaint board or list of grievances against your company. That should be private. The fact that it's on the internet it's kind of like, well, why would we care?
Well, I think it'd be interesting to see if it does end up becoming. I mean, their name is Comic Book Workers United, or CBWU.
Right, but the reason what I'm saying that is they're not making a list of demands. They're not inviting other people. They're not inviting people like us in. And they're not inviting other comic companies in. There's not even a place where you can sign up to pay dues or anything. All they have is a list of demands against Image. I'm like, well, then that's your problem between you and Image.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if it does expand to something, because I mean, originally the film guild did start in just one studio. And then what you grew from there. So it'll be interesting to see if they can, survive the first couple months, and then if they do expand from there. Because I mean, lack of transparency, lack of communication, lack of procedures. I feel like that's the creative industry as a whole. And I definitely feel like most companies could use some, improvement there, from what I've heard. But the rest of the statements do seem very much listed their specific experience.
Yeah. Well, my thing is this. I'm not a fan of unions. Now, I am a fan of the early 40s, 30s unions, where
Right.
People there was child labor and all that kind of stuff. I think unions do have a place, but also, I tell you, my way of dealing with stuff like workplace stuff is me going to my boss and giving him my grievances. And then if he doesn't capitulate or at least try to meet me halfway, it's time to look for another job.
Right.
Because this place is not what I expected. And I understand that them getting together and doing this, what I fear is going to happen is nothing will outright, there will not be any outright animosity that is shown to the public. But this is the thing. Everybody always says the squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's true. But it also is the first one to get replaced when another better wheel comes in that won't squeak. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I never understand anything you're saying, Quentin, but keep talking.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, I am all for, if there's a problem, you should say something, you should speak up and everything. But, if you keep on speaking up at some point, there's going to be some reason or reasons why you get canned.
Yeah. Well, I'm coming on the other end of that, where like I am a fan of most unions. I do carry 2 cards, one for my day job and one for creative work. But it'll be interesting to see how it turns out, because a lot of unions do kind of get quashed within starting out. But
yeah,
well, I get a feeling like I said, they're not really. I can't, like you said. Are they hoping this is going to catch on and other companies and workers? But I mean, it's like the funny thing is like, do you really think anybody from DC and Marvel are going to join this union if it means they're going to lose their job off it?
Right, and that'll be a thing, because a lot. A lot of issues could also be the fact that as far as like, if you're trying to make comics your day job, you have your options are kind of limited, so you can only exhaust those to a certain point before you have to change your industry.
Yeah.
So I think the idea is they're trying to do something to retain people, to prevent them from being burned out from the industry as a whole, because that's also been an issue, is the worker retention in comics offices. I know Dark Horse over in Bend, which is on the other side of me.
I thought they were in Milwaukee.
They have an annex in Milwaukee, but their headquarters is in Bend.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. They some of their people have been talking about wanting this for years as well, because and also we just recently had other news coming out of the Dark Horse office, which made it sound like it was not a fun place to work at over the summer. But I haven't really heard any complaints from offices like Oni or Top Flight. So it is, it could be very limited in scope and who they can actually recruit for a while, at least.
Well, I'm just, I'm just feeling bad for the people who are genuine behind this thing, because this is the thing. There is stuff, the way stuff should go down, but there's always unintended consequences. You don't understand what I'm saying? It's just, that's what I worry about, is because I'm going to tell you, they bring this kind of stuff over to DC. The way AT&T has gutted them, with no problem, like, hey, you're fired,
Oh yeah.
I mean, they have just went down through. AT&T has just gutted DC, and that there's been just very few, and nobody was safe. I think
no, even the president, I think, wouldn't the president get canned?
And let me just say, you imagine those people, AT&T, and then some office workers come up with this. Oh, well, we're not going to do comics anymore. We're just going to go to, some other platform. So everybody, draw your last check, and, because we're not going to deal with this,
Yeah, right.
There's lots
unintended consequences.
There's lots of people who want to work in comics, even in the office.
Well, see, that's kind of the problem too, is because if you're not happy with it, there's about 10 other people that are trying to get your position.
Yeah,
right, because they want to break into the industry. Yeah,
exactly. That's always been the problem.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And I do like the thing Infra fan said about the Batman figures.
Yes, yeah, limited Portland. Well, I think that was also another thing they mentioned is the fact that it does kind of feel like a good old boys club where the fact that there's no. I mean, this is also kind of an industry-wide problem that there is no seniority within your company. Your EIC is going to hire someone he went to college with over you when he's looking for an associate, and that's everyone complains about it just about every office. I have to hear any complaints about that with someone like Todd. From right here, he's an absolute charm to work with. But you hear about some other people who did not earn any favors because they just opted for the classic nepotism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we were actually at the 10-minute point. So I'll grab some final thoughts and then we'll hit our ad break and then head over into talking about epic storytelling.
The funny thing is I really think this is a tonal conflict that should have stayed in Image for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think by posting it online, they are kind of strong arming Image a little bit because everybody's waiting for Image's answer. And if Image doesn't decide to go through with this, then it's going to be all this hate and boycotting Image. So they put Image in a very precarious place by doing this. And I'm sure that was their intention. Was to post this online and let's have a little bit of trial by public going into Image. But I just feel like, maybe, it's going to hurt Image. And do we really need to hurt the last vestiges of the company kind of keeping Western comics alive? I don't know. I'd be curious to see. I mean, they definitely. I think Image's smartest bet would be to be no comment. But the problem is no matter what they do, the people who have made this document are going to start reporting it.
Image made a very smart weave. They've already commented so far, and they've said that they respect their employee. That Image will maintain their commitment to empower and respect the choices of their employees. So it's so far they're not acknowledging internal drama. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm curious. I don't envy the position Image is in. I do find it weird that a union was formed at an Image, considering it's weren't you guys the one that it kind of formed? I mean, I know, like you said, Todd wanted to form a union, but they almost kind of in a way split off the former union of artists to go do this. Not so it is kind of a little different that this should come out of Image.
I believe that's what was in his head at the time. Was the answer was a union. But I think after getting with everybody and nobody was interested in a union, I believe, and I don't know, I wasn't there. I was in shop class, just reading the comics, I believe that they probably went away from that. Why do we want to unionize? Why don't we just do our own thing? And that way nobody will be messing with us and we can publish our own books and, have our own stuff.
Yeah. It's the issue when you grow up and become your dad. Didn't realize you're just your dad. Yeah. I think what some of the people who have worked on the organization of union organization have said is that it's not that they dislike Image, and it's very much that they want to stay working at Image. They just want there to be a more incentive for them not to jump ship and go somewhere else.
And I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure all these legitimate complaints. I just not sure if you had to draw the whole world into the problems of the company. That I was like, well,
yeah, I didn't like that too much. Just hearing that they went to Twitter before they went, or didn't really give a heads up, because that looks like to me you're not really wanting to work with somebody if you're telling everybody else what y'all's problem is.
Right. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, we're going to hit a quick little ad break here. No video this time, but we are going to hit a quick little banner thing while I talk a bit. Where is the banner? Aaron,
Do it.
Aaron, where's the banner? There's.
Blame Aaron.
Why would I know?
So we are, of course, finished up our Kickstarter and Indiegogo for the Silverline Christmas special, but it's not too late. Well, it is too late if you're only on Kickstarter, but it's not too late if you're on Indiegogo. We did hit the goal, so we are available in demand. So you can still get an order. Yeah. You can still get an order placed before it's only available through our Indie Planet shopfront. Of course, it may not arrive at the same time as those who pre-ordered, and it will not have the same exclusive bonuses, but you can still get your order in and get ahead of those who wait until the very last second and end up getting it in February because they waited it for it to be on our storefront. Yeah. So if you want to get it in and hopefully get it in on time, go head over to Indiegogo and do the in-demand order.
Right. And only those have words. The ones in the storefront won't have words in the book. So that's the punishment for not pre-ordering the book.
Yeah, it's the storefront one is actually just Quentin drawing rude gestures at you.
Yes.
Right. So we are going to be talking for the second half of the show here about epics, and not just epic in the gamer move sense, but epic as in what started out as being classic epic poetry. What is defined as a long, widespread narrative featuring feats of heroism. So the idea of these longer stories that are told across a variety of settings that feature maybe your classical heroic moments, or even a classical tragedy, or an anti-hero, or even a heroic villain, as Paul is in Dune. And I would kind of get into that if requested, but I will not without, because that is a rabbit hole to get down. But what you might think of as Star Wars, Dune, the Avengers, even their or even any sort of superhero that's been collected into a graphic novel would be considered one epic there.
Well, I mean, the Iliad's the original.
The Iliad, the Odyssey, Don Quixote, all that good stuff. Yes. So we're gonna, because it does tie in quite well to comics, because what do comic writers love doing more? Great stories about heroes, but describing and possibly large settings for their artists to draw.
Yes, with armies.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, with armies. Oh my goodness, Roland Man.
It's pretty easy just to draw army, isn't
it?
Yeah.
It's a whole other thing. Yeah.
Yes. I felt kind of it's a story part. It makes sense, but I felt bad because in a script I was just writing for my new artist, I literally wrote a swarm attacks, a swarm of blank attacks. I'm like, I mean, it is, but don't break yourself on the page.
I'm about to make my own list of demands. No armies, no battles, no epic battles.
The next writer who writes the words army, swarm, or armada gets their pay docked.
I know.
Yeah. I was saying that if we did unionize, our demands should be actually on Del Taco to increase we should put pressure on them to sponsor us. Yes. So
I don't even know what that means, but that sounds amazing.
It's been a long running joke.
Well, because of Brent Larson and Roland Man, Del Taco has been like a meme around Silverline for a long time.
We have a couple. We have a couple that not too far away that I now I visit whenever I go by because I have to. Our armies consist of no more than 4 people.
That's right.
Can I officially say I'm part of Silverline? I've not had Del Taco. Is that? I
haven't either. I didn't even know what it was, and there's all kinds of stuff over here in Texas.
Right. Well, yeah. If you guys if you don't get it before the next convention we're all at, we'll have to make it a group outing.
Well, from what I've heard, from what I've heard, they sell tacos, and according to Tommy, French fries.
Yes.
What?
You can.
It seems like it's a Jack in the Box at taco places. That's what I gather from it.
Before you could get it in your Target, it was the exclusive place to get the Klondike Choco Taco.
It kind of reminds me of the Jerk. Do y'all ever see Steve Martin's The Jerk?
Oh, yeah.
It's an old movie, like Pizza Cup or Pizza in a Cup.
Yes,
yeah.
Well, anyway, obviously, I'm a fan of epic stories. Given my propensity to talk without stop about Dune and the fact that half of my arm is covered in Star Wars ink. So we'll pass around, but we'll kind of get some. Infrafan mentioned Beowulf, which is another classic one of the sagas, and probably the best example of Norse epics besides Ragnarok. So we'll pass around, and that's the next antitrust is the Silverline Del Taco trust. So we'll pass around and get some of your guys' opinions on whatever some of your epics. What do you kind of think of mine? We think these big stories. What do you like about them? What do you don't like about them? Thoughts, opinions, questions, comments, quibbles.
I like big stories. I think big stories are great.
I love them. A matter of fact, you
cannot lie.
You asked what we had consumed, and I totally forgot. And I do this every week. I forget. I have watched movies 1 through 3 of Harry Potter, and I've never watched it until lately. And I'm really enjoying it. Enjoying it. I've got the kids watching it, and just an example of a long form story. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm glad I'm this far back on it. The movies are long.
Yeah.
But they get longer.
Prior to that, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, The Hobbit, Star Wars, and I would have to say the Underworld series.
Okay.
I really like. Now, I don't put it up there with the other ones, but as far as that side of me, I like that. For that genre, that was awesome.
Kate Beckinsale is not too hard to look at, is she? It's I don't watch. It's like you watch.
I don't know what you're talking about, Aaron.
I know.
I watch
those movies for the articles.
Yeah. I just really like vampires. What are you talking about?
That's it. Yeah. I don't have to. Just because she wears leather tight outfits doesn't. I didn't even notice that.
Stop it! My wife watches this. No.
Trying to get her brother in trouble.
Yeah.
And another
Hi,
thing,
Mrs. Bedwell.
Yeah, another thing about her is she does not age. It seems.
No.
You can. I mean, she was making. I'm telling you, because you can look at some of her older movies, and they go way back. To when John Cusack had a neck, and that's been years ago. And she played in, what was it? Was it called Serendipity?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty old now. That movie.
Michelle Pfeiffer's the same way. That woman doesn't age.
Yep. But anyway, that's my epics, and I just got the Diamond Select figures in Wave 1 and 2, and I just can't wait to build that Sauron.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a Build-A-Figure, and I'm going to show it on here when I do.
I didn't put it together, but I do for the Middle Earth strategy battle game, which is Warhammer Lord of the Rings, literally made by the Warhammer Company. I have been building an Uruk army, and I've managed to pick up a Sauron, the white. So
he is one of my favorite characters. I love Christopher Lee.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He did a great job with that. I'm trying to think of most. Most of the stories I read are usually character based or some. I don't know. stories where like huge armies clash. I like the Lord of the Rings movies, but every time the armies clash or whatever, the scenes like that, I'm like, time to go make a sandwich. I don't know why that is. I don't get it. I love D&D type stuff. So the first movie when they're out, just a small band fighting, adventure, like that was awesome. Once you start getting into politics or stuff, then my eyes glaze over. I don't know, and this is with all stories. I mean, this is what happened with Game of Thrones. Like, this has started out cool, and it's like, let's talk about politics. Like, I'm done, and it's just like this, and I can't figure it out because I'm not saying these stories are bad. It's just, my brain shuts off.
No, there's a definite taste where you either receive battles as a moment of building tension or a moment that slows down tension. Yeah. Because if you're following a character's progression, unless the story does a really good job of telling that progression metaphorically, where either they are literally overcoming their change as part of the battle, or they are, there's something visual represented some visual representation that is that character's inner struggle in the battle. It can you're essentially watching that tension get put on pause. Speaking of these types of, I mean, the story of Drist du Orden is, I mean, it is an epic. It is a wide-spanning tale, feats of heroism set across, multiple settings, decades. But it is always focused on, Drist, and each trilogy is a different part of Drist learning something. Whether it's Drist learning where his morals stand in the Sojourn saga, where he's leaving Menzo Branzian and heads up north to Ten Towns, or when he works with the heroes of the Mithril Hall and understands, how he that he is capable of holding not just affection on a brothers in arms level, but also in a romantic level. And he pursues I forgot her name, but the Hunter Ranger, and and then Homecoming, where he deals with which the trilogy is held up, where he deals with Jarlaxle, and maybe there is more, even though he learned where his morals are, maybe there's room for more gray in things and room for more grace when dealing with people in certain issues, as well as, not just like cutting off those past bridges, but then trying to go back and actually bring those people back to him, bring those people back to some sort of redemption arc and passing on the hero's journey to them. And it's everything is a character driven moment, but it's still this widespread story with lots of heroism and sword fighting and fencing and elf magic. But I definitely, all this to say, you still have appreciation for epics, but it's just a different taste that I can respect.
Yeah. I don't know. I like I said, I felt bad with the whole Dune thing. My friend really wanted me to like it. I'm like, I don't get it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they're in the sand. There's giant worms. Why are they out? I mean, they got the spice, and I like spicy food too. But I'm just kidding. But I know what the spice is and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Epic. I mean, I like the Matrix movies a lot, but I think it's just, and I always seems to be like, maybe I mix epics with like huge battles or the government's falling in huge rising, and I'm always amazed, especially I'm just not a fan of like traditions or whatever. So like, every time, well, we are like, this house, and I guess Dune is fresh in my mind, so I'll use Dune again.
Sure.
When he's like, and this is an example in this, but it's been in lots of movies, like, I pledge my life to you, Prince, or whatever. And I'm just like, look, everybody's dead. Your house is dead. I mean, I don't get, it's like, look, just cut the kid a break. Just go do your own thing. This idea of like pretty much uphold traditions, like they have the knife, I call it the senseless knife fight at the end of the movie. And it's like, yeah, but tradition says that you must kill this guy. And I'm like, screw tradition. Don't take another life because it's tradition. That's what law says. I'm like, that. And so sometimes a lot of that stuff gets to me because I'm like, people fighting over governments. I'm like, look, governments are kind of laws, but a lot of traditions and stuff are just stuff made up over time because people are just bored and make up stuff to make it look more regal than it really is. So I'm like, you wear a goofy hat, you wear a goofy guy. I mean, the church is classic for this, They have better and better hats as things go, and I know this history, but it's like, I mean, are the hats really that important? And George Carlin did a whole thing about this, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to like watch people just slaughter each other over perceived traditions and ways of doing things that are really just people making stuff up because they're just trying to figure out how to do stuff and they make it up and then it becomes law of the land. We must die for like House Atreides, and I'm like, screw House Atreides. Go do your own thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm a rebel in that way. I don't get it.
Aaron, I'm about to blow your mind.
Okay.
That's the point of Dune.
Yeah, I know. He
that is
goes
literally
against it.
It's fact, no, it's that.
There you go. Now you can like it.
It's that Paul falls into it. The idea is that he sees the jihad that will claim 61 billion lives, and he sees the other option in the Golden Path is him and Chani living. Spoilers for a book that's been out for 70 years.
Oh yeah.
Or he sees two paths. He sees two paths, or on the movie he sees the two paths on the Golden Path, which is the the future sight through the spice. One is where Jameis teaches him how to be one with it and as a friend. The other one is Paul Atreides dying and the Kwisatz Haderach living. And he chooses instead to kill Jameis and kill Paul Atreides, so he may be the Kwisatz Haderach instead of following the other path, because that seems to be what makes the most sense. Later on, he sees two visions: him and Chani living in the siege peacefully, or another continuation of the jihad and the 61 billion lives dying, the holy wars in his father's name. He's like, actually, I'm going to go down that path.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I'd probably like the story a lot more if it got to that. I just, Game of Thrones are fighting over thrones. I don't know. Yeah. I guess I've always liked stories where a person has to fight personally against a personal demon or something. Like Conan. I'm a big fan of Conan because he's like one man against the world, sort of.
Yeah. Dune is really restoring that you have two books about Paul Atreides becoming the worst person possible, and then his son, Leto II, coming up and be like, actually, I'm going to undo everything my dad just did.
Got it.
It's interesting, but that's fantastic. In your resentment of Dune, you have discovered the point.
Yeah, I think that is the point of all the story. Then that's more up my speed. I don't know. I get it. Just seems. I don't know. I just don't get like traditions. I'm just like I don't know. It just idea we lead. I don't know. Anyway, I can get into that forever. I do like some epics, but I don't necessarily understand all the reasons for like slaughtering masses of people over abstract ideas.
So not not so much a fan of the 40K grim dark. These people don't believe that this one man is the god in quite the same way we do, so we must purge an entire planet.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's it's just types of stories people are into. A lot of my friends are the epic stories. So I'm like, and I like Star Wars. I like I like The Mandalorian more because it was more of a personal story. This guy, even though every time that guy went anywhere, it's like, hey, we got a job for you. That guy can never do anything without risking his life. Can I get food for the baby? We want to kill these 50 monsters. Then we'll maybe give you some. It's like the poor guy couldn't do anything. Everyone they visit him is like, hey, you're not doing anything. You want to kill all these stormtroopers? Okay, yeah, sure. I guess I can do that. I mean, I got nothing else going on.
Yeah, it's the Wolverine problem. I'm the best at what I do, and what I do isn't very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's always got something. Speaking of stuff, you guys, I'm sure, all saw the new Boba Fett trailer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you? It looked cool, but did you? It just had a care. Did you guys ever see Boba Fett as somebody to like be a crime lord? That seemed a little. I mean, they haven't done much of the character, but I didn't you always get a sense he was more of a loner.
It's if they build it more into like what they did with it is weird that he's going to be taking over the cartel. In Legends, he becomes Mandalore. He recreates the Mandalorian culture. But imagine what they're probably going to do. Writer brain kicking in because epic storytelling is my favorite thing.
Right.
What they're probably going to do is they're probably going to tie that back into the loss of his father so early on that he's never truly had a family except for the gains that he ran with on the Outer Rim. So he probably builds an association between game life and family life, and it's him creating a new family for himself after solving this issue of the debt. Because we already kind of saw that where you almost saw like a brotherly respect between him and Mando without even really knowing him, and and there was that sense of protecting this kid. But I imagine they're going to tie more to, the classic thing with telling an epic is that there has to be a character's moral learning, either a character's moral overcoming or moral failing that drives the story. Where it may be similar to Mando, where it's him discovering a new sense of family.
Okay, because
we lost him for fan. Did you read that?
Yeah, he went to bed.
Yep.
And apparently, we won't.
Go ahead, Aaron. Sorry.
Oh no, it almost seemed like the Mandalorian character, the way they did that show was almost how I envisioned the Boba Fett, him kind of going on these adventures.
Well, some have said that they think that actually was supposed to be the Boba Fett.
Okay.
And at the outset, but they of course went a different direction with the entire thing. So
I think
they went Lone Wolf and Grogu.
Yeah. And I think having a new character also did really serve that show well, because like you were talking about, it's that point where you don't need to know what the Force is to grasp Mandalorian. Like, have you seen it? Have you heard of a spaghetti western that leads once in your life? That's it.
Yeah, it's pretty self-contained, which I think. And again, I just think not Jon Favreau, the other guy. I can't remember who did the Clone Wars.
Dave
Filoni.
Yeah, I think that guy just nails Star Wars. Every time I see him do something in Star Wars, I'm like, yeah, this guy gets it. I mean, he seems to be the kind of thing that I like. And every time I watch The Mandalorian, I really liked it. I just kind of felt bad for the poor guy. I mean, everywhere the guy went, he's like getting his beat up, and I'm like, dude, poor guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I liked about The Mandalorian, is because I wasn't expecting much going into it because of everything else that had happened, and then I was like, wow, they really brought the magic back for me.
Yes. And what they like, I think they made a really smart decision after that show, where essentially they gave Filoni Star Wars and Favreau Star Wars live action. Essentially, they're like, you two guys just make it happen.
Yeah, and I think they just especially Filoni, he just like every time I watch the Clone Wars cartoon, I'm like, yeah, this just seems like Star Wars to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he just seems to kind of get what makes that series tick. So, and I think they should just give him I think they just put him in charge of Star Wars, even more than
they did
Favreau. Oh, did they put him completely in charge of Star Wars? The whole thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Everything's supposed to be Filoni now. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
I said it was it when it what was it? One of the Star Wars movies I think that he did. People were giving him crap because Luke shouldn't have been able to do the Jedi powers he did, and then the only thing he did in response was tweet a picture of like the rules and laws and whatnot of Jedi books that he had, and I was like, dude, that's flipping awesome.
Yeah.
Like in your faces.
Well, yeah, Filoni is one of the guys who had he actually worked at LucasArts while I was still an independent studio, and he pretty much learned Star Wars from George Lucas. And George was saying that when he's like picking out a guy to take over the studio before it got sold out, he like talked to Dave and essentially gave him a quiz, and Dave answered every question right, even stuff that wasn't necessarily written down.
That's killer.
Yeah, he was almost like basically Lucas's protege.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways. Yeah. Yeah, I like the. I'd be curious. The book. I thought it was coming out this month, but the thing said into December. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess
it's they're following the lines with the classic Star Wars release scheduling, where it was originally summer holidays. Then with the prequels, it was fall holidays, and then with the new stuff, everything's been coming out on Christmas, because that's when their games started coming out, and the games sold really well. So they matched the screen content to come at the same time.
Okay. I know that reasoning was why my family, like my wife, and we took our kids. We would take our kids to go see a Star Wars movie on during Christmas, like Christmas Day. It was open up presents, enjoy food, go watch Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
So strange enough, do you guys consider the Matrix trilogy an epic, or would that be something else? I'm curious, because I'm like, they had the big war at the end.
I think it's definitely the first one has a feeling of an epic. Well, yeah, even across the trilogy, because they do. It's the idea of crossing different regions or settings to bring to be able to affect change in more than just one place. Because like it's just supposed to be wide spanning, and so they affect change not only in the Matrix but also in what's the name of the city?
Oh, Zion.
Zion, yes. I can remember that it's based off of Rastafarianism, but affecting change in Zion as well as in seeing the interior of the interior of like the Matrix pipes, and then also the Matrix itself.
Yeah,
and it does follow like characters' changes carried out through these feats of heroism.
I didn't consider it an epic until you read the definition you were reading, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
maybe that is an epic, and I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, an epic essentially is just any sort of moral tale with feats of heroism and multiple settings. Yeah.
I would.
That's the case. Then everything, in my opinion, anyways. All of the for Forgotten Realms, all of the Chronicle books. You know what I mean?
If that's the case, then Twilight is an epic. What have you done, Tim?
And don't get Quentin talking about Twilight. We'll be on here forever. He loves that series.
Does Twilight leave Washington?
Yeah. When they go to the council, whatever.
True. I mean,
and how do I know this? Because I had a teenage daughter when it was coming out.
Yeah. Aaron and I
had a girlfriend that liked Twilight, so I got to go see all the movies in the theater. So
sure. Because it was a girlfriend.
I didn't appreciate Twilight until I started going to Halloween Town over in St. Helens, Oregon, which is between Aaron and myself.
Yeah.
Because that's where a lot of it was filmed. So they have all the set pieces and stuff still up during the month of October, so you can go.
That's cool.
I'm like, oh, this is actually neat. All right, I guess that's our thing now.
I told you guys that my mother grew up in Forks, Washington.
Huh.
She had no idea. I brought home.
That was a legit place.
What?
That was a legit place.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've been to Forks, Washington. Yes. Oh, yes. I've been to Forks, Washington many a time. Yeah, that was our hometown. And so I brought home this DVD that said Forks, Washington, Twilight, and she had no idea. She's like, "What is this? What?" And it's fun watching the movies with her because she'd be like, "Oh, that's old Doc's house. We used to live up the street from that guy. Oh yeah, that's where they filmed this. Oh yeah, that's the beach."
That's funny.
Yeah, she knows it all. She's like, "Yeah, I grew up there." I will tell you this. Forks is nowhere near as big as it is in the movie. Not even close.
Mm-hmm.
Not away. They film a lot of the scenes in there in Port Angeles. I actually went to school in Port Angeles too. Port Angeles is beautiful. So they kind of film scenes in there too. And so when I see those scenes, I'm like, I remember that street.
Yep.
So
that's it. Yeah, the courthouse and some of the school, the courthouse, the school, and the baseball field were all St. Helens. So driving through there, it's like, oh yeah,
yeah, it's pretty great. But they did like the beach scenes. I think with the push that's up by Forks. So she was completely flabbergasted that her small town, because it is as small town. It's literally a street. I mean, it's nothing. So yeah, and she said when she picked the town, she just looked up the time with the most annual rainfall, and Forks was it, and so she just put it there. That was it. And it just made that town famous overnight.
Yeah.
So I remember there was I heard a story of some girl who was like a daughter of like a royalty or something, somebody rich, and she can go anywhere in the world. Like, where do you want to go? Anywhere in the world. She's like, I want to go to Forks, Washington. I'm like, why would you want to go? I mean, there's nothing there, like a Walmart and like some places to eat in a neighborhood. Like there was nothing there. But they had a lot of fun with the school. I remember them at the school. People would write the actual Forks High School, and then they had students there that would write them back as if they were really went to the school, that the vampires are really there or whatever. So they had fun with that. They actually and there was a store that sold Twilight stuff, and I think they had tours where they would tour around to certain places where supposedly the places of the show took place, or the books and stuff. So the town had a lot of fun with the fact that they became famous inadvertently from this book series. Yeah, it's a real place. Oh, by all means. So
coming up next, the Silverline video tour of Forks, Washington, featuring.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun getting her talking about it. She was completely her whole family grew up there, so it's like, oh, okay.
Well, I know my daughter loved it. She watched that thing over and over and over.
If she has any questions about Forks, she definitely I'll pass them to my mother. She'll probably answer them for you.
Right.
Well.
Let her know you got the hookup now.
Yeah,
I do. I do. I have the Forks hookup, and yeah, it was weird because I used to go to Forks as a kid up there. My mom would go up to see family and stuff, and in the avenue was like Forks, Washington. Like it literally. I mean, driving into the town, it's like welcome to Forks. There's like a grocery store. Now it's probably changed a little bit by now, and like 2 places to eat, and you drive down a road, and there's a neighborhood, and that's it. And then it's forest. It's in the middle of the national forest because it's a logging town. That's what the history of it. It was an old logging town. It still is. So that's it. The other claim to fame they had is they were the one that really protested the spotted owl controversy. I don't think you guys ever remember that. They also, because they were a bunch of loggers, and well, we can't log because of the spotted owl. And it's like, yeah, but that's our town. So yeah.
I remember that. Even Bush Sr. got in on that, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, same town. Now they're infested with vampires. That sparkle.
Yep, that's what you get. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
I never could understand this. I know why she made it sparkly, because it was a dream she had, but I never could quite wrap my head around the sparkly vampire thing. I'm like, wait, what? But wasn't he the only one that sparkled? Didn't the other ones wasn't it like a special trait he had that only he sparkled in sunlight?
Well, he said that, we're designed to be hunters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the idea is that they'd be it's kind of like I forgot the type of snake, but essentially you create something that looks really interesting and enticing, and you suggest create so your prey wanders close to you, and then
okay, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Then you take its head off.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you cuddled with it.
Yes.
What movie
made
did you
love
watch,
to it.
No, it cuddles with your head.
It makes sweet love.
It's not just a hamburger; it's a beautiful hamburger.
Yeah, I know. I wonder how many guys would like dumping sparkles on that. I'm gonna get ladies tonight.
No.
Dumping gold sparkle. Tim's all laughing nervously. Oh, no one's ever tried that.
As he pushes his jar of sprinkles
inside.
Yeah.
We had to get this out of camera room.
I got tired of vampire movies there for a long time, just like I have the zombies and everything. But I do love to see new iterations of them, and I love to see the new lores people come up with. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoy that. Sometimes it's a little off, sometimes it's a little nuts, you know what I'm saying? Sure. But, sometimes it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the reasons why I love Epic Stories as much as I do is the amount of lore dumping that happens.
Yeah.
If I can spend 3 hours just deep diving a Wikipedia page for whatever piece of material, I instantly love it.
I love world building, the whole world building aspect of things, and also the new take on it really helps me. I always thought what was funny though is how a lot of them depict vampires as always hungry. I must feed. Imagine if you walked around, I must feed. How ridiculous that would sound. You get hungry. You say, yeah, I must feed.
I was just thinking of some guy wandering around outside McDonald's. I must feed. I must get my burger.
Yes.
So I'll take it back. There was one epic story. Now I'm thinking of epics. The Legacy of Kain series.
Yes.
Awesome. And this vampire, that is super epic. That is a cool story.
Yep. Soul Reaver, The Legacy of Kain.
Oh yeah.
any game. Let's talk about a game that's ripe for a reboot or remaster.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That series is like,
Yes.
come on.
No, I think that's also like why a lot of like us goth kids got super into Vampire the Masquerade, because it felt like the spiritual successor to Legacy of Kain, because it kept all the same motifs. You know, Kain being the progenitor and all this, like
Yeah. But it was just
Yeah, it was the idea of a gothic story for me, like being able to play like vampire. Like I said, I love the old classic vampires and like the fact that they had different aspects, even the different plants and stuff. You know what I mean? That was just it made for really interesting stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite thing. Oh,
the guy who does the voice, man, I can't remember his name.
Braziel?
The guy who does the voice for the what was the octopus guy? What was his name?
Oh, the god, the god that weaves souls.
Braziel. Yeah, man, he was so good.
I still show people the introduction to the original Legacy of Kain. I'm like, this is the greatest introduction in a video game. It looks so old. I'm like, no, don't watch it. Listen to it.
Experience.
The way they narrate it is so epic and cool. They rip
costume in.
Yeah, it's just everything was like awesome in that. I know that series. I'm like, come on, why don't you guys? I did probably just tied up in ownership rights, but I'm there's certain where I'm just like, what game do we remake next? I'm like, hello, like everybody loved this game, and then you can even remake the original Legacy of Kain game and fix it and not have it be so criminally hard. I think I beat that game by putting a cheat code in the game the whole time. There was something you could refill your blood in the original Legacy of Kain. I think I put that in the whole time just to finish that game because it was so hard.
Well, what turned me on to that game was the first time I had ever seen a demo on a PlayStation game.
Oh yeah.
First time I had ever seen a demo, and I was like, what is this? And I thought it was awesome. And then I got the game, and that was the whole reason I bought a PlayStation 2 was to get to the next chapter of it. Yep.
Yeah. Man, demo discs were fantastic, but also the worst because you be able to spend all of your parents' money.
Yeah. And no reason they came back to those magazines or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
PlayStation Underground,
yeah, the Legacy. And I always liked the vampires, and they added more of their powers in. Like I think Jose was saying, when they add they could turn to mist or wolf or bat. And that's what I liked about the Legacy of Kain games. They added that in where they can turn to mist and wolf. I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. And then of course there's Symphony of the Night, which I mean it's just a classic game in itself. But even in that one, the old Castlevania Symphony of the Night, you could turn into Bass Wolf and Mist and all. And I always liked that. And then a lot of the vampire movies, they just suck blood and are super strong. I'm like, no, these guys could do all sorts of cool things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
in regards to Epic, just one more, if you don't mind, is for me anyway, that I feel needed more information, because you were this world building, and if I could sit there and spend a day in Wikipedia just researching stuff about this, I feel that the fact that there isn't a lot about this, to me anyway, is what makes it that good for me, are the Mad Max movies. I don't feel that there's a ton of information out there for it, so every time I watch a new aspect, I'm like okay, that's cool, but why is it like that? I don't even care. I just keep watching.
It's very little. I mean, the only thing I ever remember them saying in the movie is that it was because of a nuclear war but again, I couldn't tell if the nuclear war happened in Australia or if the nuclear war happened other places and Australia just became a wasteland because it cut off supplies coming into the country and stuff. They never said.
When he explained it to the lost kids over in what was the name of it? Beyond Thunderdome?
Yeah.
Thunderdome.
Captain Walker. That's so good.
And I noticed too when I watched the first Mad Max, it relatively was still bouts of civilization. They had small towns, and as the movie was going on, it got less and less and more. And I wonder if that was on purpose, or if that was a storytelling device where they just because by the Mad Max Thunderdome, everything was just a complete wasteland. But in the first Mad Max, he was like a cop.
Yeah,
that would chase down. It's very different.
Yeah, it's supposed to be that he was it wasn't it's different in that it wasn't a post-apocalyptic story. It was this is transitioning from the apocalypse happening to the interworld, because Mad Max 1, essentially, most natural resources had been depleted, so it was essentially a massive resource war that led to
That's what it seemed like.
all the countries are annihilating themselves.
Mad Max 1 was pretty much a Road Warrior. That was pretty much a prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really was.
And you know what's funny about that is I saw the next one and I didn't even realize that was the case. And then it went back and watched the other one. I was pretty young when those came out.
Yeah.
So, but I loved them. I loved them. Each one of them. They were good.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever play
that Mad Max came out in America before Road Warrior did.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Mad Max
Yeah.
was released in 79. Road Warrior was released in 81.
Yeah. Because they released them out of order. I think I remember that. Yeah. Now, did you guys ever play the video game, the Mad Max video game, which actually?
I think I did the arcade game with the car where you.
I have it in my Steam, but I've yet to play through it.
It's pretty good as far as like a Mad Max and that lore and stuff. They did a good job with the game. I liked it, especially with the whole car and stuff where you could tear apart cars. I was surprised it didn't get more love. It kind of came and went. And I'm like, no, they actually did a pretty good job at this. But I don't know. I mean, the last Mad Max was great, and I've heard that he's making a sequel now. Like, I know he's in the process of making a sequel, and I've heard that
about Fury Road.
Yeah, but there's a sequel which is just about Furiosa. Like Max is not in it or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's just about Furiosa is being young. Which I'm like, that actually sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, just to transition the character away from Mad Max. I mean, again, it seemed like the main character of those movies is less Max and more just the world, the sort of world and environment around it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Charlize Theron stole that friggin' movie.
She did.
She carried it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'd be curious. I do remember hearing the filming. Like when people have talked about filming Australian movies, just like how crazy the Australians are when filming that. Like half the stuff they do in those movies are really them doing that with no safety gears. Like get in the car and just go 100 miles and then hit that tree and then we'll film it. And that's good. And they say it's borderline just dangerous. I don't know if it's that way anymore, but
yeah, the dude who was the Chrome boy who was playing guitar. That was actually a dude strapped into the top of a semi.
Everything with flames. And, they just go for it. They're just
rock. You don't have to act. You don't have to talk. Just rock.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of the stunt filming in Australia. It's just a bunch of hard Australian guys just let's just go do crazy stuff and film it. And it's because I've seen American actors come back and be like, yeah, those Australians are nuts, man.
Alrighty, well,
go ahead.
Let's say it is that time again, so we're gonna grab some final thoughts here, and then we'll log off for the night.
Final thoughts. About anything we've talked about tonight, or just about epics?
We'll do it just about epics, so it's easier for the editor to split it into 2-hour-long podcasts.
Got it.
They're good.
Yeah, right.
I think epics are good. I think I like more the Matrix or Mad Max epics. Maybe that's what I'll go with.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
I do say that once you make an epic, it's best just to leave it at that and move on to the next epic. Don't go back rehashing, trying to go along with the rules of the first one or whatever, I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about, but when they try to milk something for all it's worth and they just end up ruining it,
No.
They kind of did that with Star Wars in a way, and in a way didn't. I think Star Wars actually works better. They just give up Luke Skywalker.
The good thing I like about that is they're getting. I think they tried to get away from him in the wrong way. There's a lot of things. That's a whole show on Star Wars. Yeah. That's such an odd animal. I was not, by the way, referring to that. But yeah, I'm glad though. I like what they're doing with the Mandalorian. It's not Jedi centric, but it's world, further world stuff.
Yeah.
And Bill Burr in there just really helps it too.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I
I
like
am
the way
not
his
a
character
fan of Bill
ended up.
Burr, like at all. Like I don't think that guy is funny, not even one little bit. But I thought he was great in Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His humor is definitely an acquired taste. There's some stuff Bill Burr says I think is funny, and a lot of it I'm just like, okay, I don't,
I don't necessarily know how funny he is on some stuff, but some of the stuff he says is just so you just can't say nowadays.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he says
Right.
it, and that's
Do
what I
you-
Well, I
like.
get that.
That's what I do like in some ways.
He reminds me a little bit of that old comedian he would talk about like I could smoke if I want to, whatever. He started a show about a fireman. Oh God, what is his name? Anyway,
Oh,
do you know who I'm
yeah.
talking about? He used to make songs. There was a song like "You're an A-hole," and there was this.
The dude who was later in Save Me. Yeah.
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 Bill Burr reminds me of like a new version of him. Just kind of could say whatever he wants. So.
Alrighty. Well, we have been that Silverline show on Tuesday, and we are going to be logging off for tonight. But before we do, make sure that you head over to Indiegogo and do your in-demand purchase of the Silverline Christmas special. On the bottom of the screen right now, our socials are flashing for you. So go ahead, head over to Instagram. And follow us all there. I'm also on Twitter, and we also all exist on other medias such as the Book of Face and other such things. And you can follow us at those tags. And you can, of course, follow Silverline at the following tags here. Every social media. We even have a TikTok. We have good TikTok content. I like it. So we're going to be laid off for tonight. Our channel is going to be live again tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern for Wednesday Night Wham. And again on Sunday.
Wham.
For Silver Sunday, and we'll be back here on Tuesday. And until that time,
make mine
Silverline.
Silverline.